sort of.
It seemed to, yeah.
Jumps the chart.
At the moment, but yeah. I don't know where it came from, and you know, I've told this story before, but they said, hey, we're doing, after Jason Goes to Hell, they said, we're doing another one. It's going to be called Jason X, because it's the 10th one. And I said, great. And he said, yep, it's Jason in Space. I said, that's a good one. What is it, really? It's Jason in Space. Okay, I heard it the first time. It wasn't really that funny. What is it? Jason in Space. Oh, fuck. So I wasn't crazy about the idea, but what I did was figured I'd make Jason consistent with everything I've done before, regardless of the setting. So I figured it's not my choice. I'm sure as hell not going to turn it down, because I love playing the character, so I'll just do whatever I can. Try and make him the same way, even though he's in a spaceship. And, you know, at least there's the frozen head kill in there. That's a pretty good one.
And you were a little upset the way you killed David Cronenberg, correct?
Well, yeah, I wanted to have more of a hands-on kill for Cronenberg, because I was a fan of his, and I thought it was very cool that he was in the movie. And, you know, it's like there's two guys that played cops in Jason Goes to Hell that were huge morning DJ guys. There was Mark and Brian. They were big morning guys for many years in LA, and Mark was a huge fan of horror, so he got them into the film, and then they ended up being killed by Jason when he was another form, and, you know, somebody else, and they were so disappointed, Brian was anyway, that it wasn't me killing them, it was somebody else who had the evil of Jason inside them at the time, which, you know, I don't know, I didn't care for that whole idea because I didn't work that much on the film.
It seemed the more they went, the less they got away from like the camp with the campers around, and I always wondered why they did that. You know, what was the point of, you know, the root story was campers around, CJ had campers around, but your films really didn't have that aspect to it. And
I guess they were worried that people wouldn't want to see the same old thing, which I think would have been better had they done the same type of setting with some different ideas within the story. But you start thinking, oh no, fans are tired of the camp and starting to do other stuff, then it starts getting a little crazy. Speaking
of famous people that were killed by Jason, Horshack from Welcome Back Hodder was, I believe, your first victim. So, what was he like on set?
You know, he was very charismatic. The sad thing about that scene is, even though it's a nice scene, in those days you couldn't have as much gore as they do today's. The actual shot of the heart coming out, even though you see the heart momentarily, the heart is pumping and the blood starts coming out. So it was a very cool shot, and it ended up on the ground, of course. And in those days, they didn't can everything like they do today for future distribution. So once it hits the ground, it was gone. But Horshack, he was great. I mean, you know, for a person of that magnitude coming in and had such a tremendous series in the 70s and stuff, he was down to earth like everybody else, and he was doing his thing, but he had some good charisma on set. And it was my first scene that I got to see him in action. So it was exciting.
I got a question for both of you guys, if you remember. The very first...
I remember, he may not.
Yeah.
30 years ago, 36 years ago.
He doesn't remember where he is right now, but what was the very first shot that you did as Jason? Very first shot.
I know mine. Go ahead, sir.
I don't remember.
All right. So the very first scene is the director telling me to step in front of camera, 90-degree profile with the mobile home behind me moving, and me turning sideways and looking at it and start walking towards the front door. And I remember him telling me to put my lats out, and all I want to see is your back as big as it is as you take off to go after that mobile home, as you've noticed. And I still remember my very first scene, which is about halfway through the movie. So that's where I stepped into it, because they do jump left and right and upside and down the side when you're shooting a film. So,
but the very first shot would be?
First shot would be camera lens coming on my left side, left profile, and you see my head, the hockey mask, and then you see the trailer behind it.
Right. That's pretty cool to think that, you know, the very first thing you ever did officially as Jason.
You know, you'll always remember that. You know?
And like CJ's saying, everything is done completely out of order of the way the film is. my very first shot, and I didn't tell people this for 20 years, just because I thought it was kind of cool to keep to myself, but Tina has a vision while they're in the house at the party of me stabbing Bill Butler through the body with a tent stake, and we're in the kitchen. And that is the very first shot I ever did as well.
I really, honest to God, I don't remember the first shot.
Moving on, next
I
question.
really don't. I don't remember what I did yesterday, so what the hell?
This is why we give him so much respect, because he forgot 10 minutes ago. So it's all love, okay?
Kane, were you a fan of the franchise prior to playing Jason?
I was a huge fan, yeah.
Okay, so coming into the first time you're portraying Jason, you have Laura coming in as Tina, that actually gives Jason a run for his money. What was that like, that you had a formidable adversary rather than just fodder?
Yeah, I mean, it was totally different storyline by that point, and it really appealed to me because of so many stunts that I had to do as the character. And so from, you know, I still had the stunt person's mentality that I just loved doing stuff like that, so that now I'm not only doing everything I love, but I'm also playing the character that is the main focus of the film. It was just incredible. And I still can think back to the feeling I had when I was on the set, saying, holy shit, there's people around the world, literally, that know this character, and I'm wearing the fucking mask? Can you imagine how unbelievable that would feel? Because 6 films, you know, it probably wasn't the same feeling back on the first and second because nobody knew about it as much. But you get through 6 films.
It was in all seriousness, Frank Mancuso, who was the executive producer for Paramount, Frank Mancuso's father was the guy who was running Paramount at the time. And they gave him $900,000 and they said, here, take your first project. So he gets a young guy by the name of Steve Miner to direct it, he did something to do with the first film, but I don't know what. And then they got a guy by the name of Dennis Murphy, who was another producer on it. So these guys were their first real film, and me being the Jason character, you know, I kid around about, you know, the bag on my head and all, but, you know, it was a development thing. How are you going to do? You know, they wanted me to run a certain way. I said, no, I'd rather lope. I didn't want to run. I felt like running was not the thing, you know, so we had a discussion about that. Also, you know, it was a development of the character itself at the time, you know, and at the time I wasn't thinking about it because I was a stunt guy. I wasn't an actor. I mean, I was kind of an actor, but mostly stunts. And I'm thinking stunts. And when you're a stunt guy, you do stunts, and an actor does acting, you know, so there was a combination of both. And I was trying to get that in my head, that that's what I was doing. And the only time that it really came to reality of me, with me, that I was a character, was when we were in Jason's lair. And Amy had this conversation about, Jason, this is your mother. I guess you all know the scene where she tries to kill me with the machete. And they wanted to use a stunt girl. Cliff wanted to use a stunt girl with the machete because they said it would be kind of dangerous. But Steve Miner, the director, said, no, we're going to use Amy. We're going to teach her how to use the machete to come down. But when she started to utter those words to me, Jason, this is mommy talking, I really started to feel like a character then, behind the bed, looking at her. And I felt like they wanted something because they were. The point I'm trying to make is that I had to develop, and I wasn't intentionally developing the character. I was just being Jason. And I didn't even realize that I was being Jason, you know. So it was kind of different for them guys because they had already seen different Jasons and they had an idea. Not that I'm taking anything away from them, I'm not.
You've been doing it all night. Why stop now?